Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina,
And I'm Kevin.
and we're back with another race review. But before we jump into all of that, just want to remind everybody and thank everybody in advance for following us on socials. So, Instagram and TikTok at Fresh Set Podcast, and then on wherever you get your podcasts, and YouTube also at Fresh Set Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow, comment. It really helps us out. So
Yep,
do it, please.
right now.
Right now. Stop
Stop
listening.
everything you're
Go
doing.
do
If you're
that.
driving, pull over.
Go follow, and then you can come back. And we'll still be here. Well, we have the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we complained about it. Everybody complained about Japan and how boring it was. And Bahrain was like, hold my beer. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just, well, I'll just do
It was
everything that
exciting.
you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
We actually had on-track battles. And I
Yeah.
remember clearly thinking, like, okay, I don't need a safety car. I don't need a crash. I don't need a
Yeah.
red flag. But we have on-track fighting and quite a
Yeah.
bit of it.
A lot. Everywhere.
Yeah, throughout the whole
Everywhere.
race.
Yeah. Uh, but before we get into the race that obviously happened today, we are going to go back to practice, which there was not too much. And obviously, we don't have to spend a lot of time on practice.
No.
But the only thing that I will say, or one thing that we'll say, is that we had six
Was it
rookies,
all
seven,
six?
five.
Possibly. There were actually, you know what? I can pull it up right here.
So there were rookies.
There were rookies.
These are F2 drivers,
Yeah,
reserve drivers for the teams just coming. There are all teams are
6.
required to six. Okay. So the teams are required to have the rookies and the reserve drivers do some of the practice sessions in the
Yeah,
year.
and it
So
also helps
this
them get their
weekend.
super license points and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
What I
so
will
this
say,
weekend helped.
we don't have to go through a lot of them. I mean, we have like the typical like Drugovich for Aston Martin stuff. But if I don't know if you saw the one who did free practice for Haas, Hirakawa, he has practiced for 3 different teams in 4 different settings already. He has gone from McLaren, then he went to
Yeah.
a Williams, then he did, I think it was like last week, the same time Colapinto was testing, he did with the Alpine,
With the
and
Alpine.
then and now he's been doing, and then to this today with the Haas again, which is straight. Like usually you'll see it with the same customer teams. Like if it was
Yeah.
Ferrari and Haas, great, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
these are all 4 completely different engines.
Yeah, which kind of makes, I mean, I could totally be making this up, but it's kind of like, are all these teams interested in him? Like, hey, come drive our car. Hey, come drive our car.
Well, yeah, I don't. When it comes to because the Haas was last year, was it? Or not the Haas?
Yeah.
Sorry, the McLaren. I don't know necessarily that they would be. I mean, they've got 2 young drivers, but they've also got like some at Paddle War. They have other
Yeah.
series where they're going to bring somebody through. Probably not, but I think the Haas, if Barron doesn't work out, I mean, that's a which. I mean, I don't think he's not going to work out, but he's an option. I think he's a very
Good option.
good option. Yeah, I was trying
Yeah,
to think.
for
I was
them.
trying to find a smart word, and it just
Mm,
fell short. Looks
just good.
stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the most really exciting thing about practice. Everybody just trying to get their bearings on Bahrain. And then we go into, and then FP2, I think we're back to the usual suspects driving their cars.
Yeah.
FP3, same thing. And then we go into quali, which seemed normal, seemed like everything was going swimmingly for everybody. We have, well, swimmingly, I should say. I shouldn't say that actually. There was some lap times deleted for some
Well, yeah,
people.
we have. I mean, we have Ollie Behrman, who's not typically in the last, and he was
Yeah.
this time. Yeah, just kind of out of character. Did he have a lap time deleted? I believe he did.
I think he did.
I think that's
Yeah.
why he's in 20th. Yeah, I believe he did have a lap time deleted, which I don't know if his second lap time was good enough to get out of Q1,
Yeah.
but it was not 20th.
No. And I mean, there was the session. Q1 was just an interesting session because there was just timings that weren't really working. We had, I think I had messaged you, there was about 3 minutes left in Q1, and both Red Bulls had not put up a time.
Well, they
um,
had their they had their lap times deleted
they
as
had,
well.
yeah, they had
Yeah,
their
yeah.
lap times
Their first
deleted.
lap time.
And so it's like, okay, do we have enough time to get some
Yeah.
times and some decent times? Because I mean, this
Everybody
track is a 1 minute 30
1:30
that we need to be getting
in
around. So
a quali lap. So
yeah,
you're looking at about what, 2 minutes to get around on your out lap,
yeah, yeah,
roughly, and
yeah,
then so yeah, everybody started leaving the garage again at like 3:30 left, around that
yeah.
three and a
But
half minutes.
everybody else had
But
some
it's
times
traffic.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So it was a little hairy for the Red Bulls, but I mean, both were able to put up some times to get them out. They weren't great times, but they were able to put up some times to
No,
get them
well,
out
and that's the thing.
of,
Like
yeah.
they both had their track limits at the same corner, which was the last
Mhm.
corner before the start line. So you could see them coming up to that last corner. It's like, okay, just keep it on track,
Keep it on
keep it within
track.
the lines, and we'll go
Yeah.
through. And they were, I think Max came in like fifth or fourth in
I think it was
Q1,
seventh.
and
I thought it was seventh, but
maybe it was, yeah, it could have been. And
yeah.
then Yuki was outside of the top 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they got through.
So, yeah, they got through. And then we go to
Well,
Q2.
at
Oh,
the last second, the last driver through was Nico Hulkenberg. He beat Albon out by, I think it was a couple hundredths of a second, if I'm
hmm,
not mistaken. Maybe like 400ths of a second, so not much. But he actually kicks him out at as the last driver, because they were. I remember Crofty was talking about Alex Albon just making it through because he thought there were no other runners, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden
He's like,
Hulkenberg
oh,
takes him out.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Hulkenberg takes him out. So Albon's 15th, 16th.
16th. Yeah,
Hulkenberg at this point is 15th. He runs Q2 and isn't able to get out of Q2. This is, again, kind of the usual suspects, but there is a red flag. There is a red flag because Ocon has a nasty crash,
yeah.
um, which was very concerning when I was watching it. When you see it in the car, it's not as bad, but like
Yeah, yeah. I was
seeing
gonna
it
say it looked.
hit,
Yeah,
seeing it real time and then the replay, but the onboard in the car doesn't look
it
as
didn't look
bad
like he
because
was too affected by it, which
yeah,
was good,
yeah, yeah.
obviously.
You could see it slowed him down.
Yeah,
Like getting onto the gravel slowed down the impact at first, but there was a red flag for that. And then we're gonna kind of pick on Hulkenberg because he's the name that comes up a bit later on. So he doesn't make it out of Q2, and we go to Q3. Basically the usual suspects, except we have Sonoda in there, which is the first time that we're seeing a Red Bull
yeah.
or the second Red
The
Bull, I should
second Red
say.
Bull, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
We're seeing the second Red Bull
into
into Q3
this year, yeah.
this year. We've got Sainz and we've got Gasly up
Yeah, well,
there.
let's give a little bit of credit to the Alpines this weekend, because Duhan comes
Yeah.
out of the gate, and now my predictions are completely wrong. So my prediction that he would not have even been racing in this weekend because he would have been out in
Yeah.
Japan, which it was close, in my opinion.
Very
I'm
close.
sure it was being thrown around there. Do we
Yeah.
make a switch? And I think Liam Lawson screws me because that whole controversy and the terrible outlook on Red Bull
Yeah.
kind of sways their decision. That's my thinking. But
Yeah.
but I mean, he comes back with a great weekend. He comes,
Yeah.
he, and we'll talk about it in the race. I mean, he had a decent showing. I mean, better than he's
Yeah.
had so far, but a great qualifying. He
Yeah.
just misses Q3. He comes out
Yeah.
in 11th. So and Gasly not only puts himself into Q3, but he puts himself in a decent time. So I mean, these Alpines, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the track or if it's tarmac or the way their car reacts to it, they were on point this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were doing what they need to do with the car. I think they've got a little bit of fear of Briatore.
Tori. It was his
Yeah.
birthday weekend, and I don't think they wanted to disappoint him.
Yeah, exactly. They had a little bit of fear in them, but they drove well. So Q3 is underway. You know, stuff's happening. People are putting up points. Middle of or not middle, almost the end of Q3, the ticker comes up at the top. Hulkenberg, lap time deleted. Okay, well,
Near the
Hulkenberg
end of the
is,
session.
yeah, Hulkenberg is not in
He doesn't have a
Q3.
lap time in
So
Q3.
what lap time is being deleted? And we're not talking about a lap time that was in Q2 being deleted. We're talking about a Q1
One.
lap time that was
Yeah.
being deleted.
Yeah.
And it is now 45 minutes later that they have figured this out. And it has royally pissed off and screwed over Alex Albon.
Yep.
Because had had the lap time been deleted when it was supposed to be in the Q1 session, Albon would have gone through and maybe been another, he could have been in the top
He
10.
could have been in Q3. Yeah.
He
Could
could
have
have been
been.
in P11.
He could
He
have not
didn't.
starting it. He could have not started in 15th place. He might have started in 11th. You know, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. So unsure. I don't think we actually really heard
They did.
why. Oh, did
They
we?
did. So they did come out today, and it was just before the race. I saw it on F1 TV. So they did come out, and they did take ownership over it. So they said we messed up, right?
Right.
And I know you have your rant later on, so I'm going to have my little
Yeah.
rant here.
Yeah.
But they did come out and they said that they were really focused, especially on I think believe it was turn 11, where there was a lot of track limit violations. So they had a lot of focus on there, and then they missed one, which happens. I'm not.
Yeah.
They're human.
Yeah.
We don't have GPS and AI analyzing all this shit yet. Maybe it'll happen next year, but because they seem to be getting rid of everybody. But I get it. They miss things, and that's fine. Okay, it's not really fine. But when you don't come back 45 minutes later, after this person has already ruined somebody else's time and absolutely delete their time, and you switch, and you're switching one place basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, I mean, we see it through all other sports. So we see football, hockey, baseball, soccer. After a certain time, that play is no longer reviewable. There's like something happens, great, it happens. If you want to
Yeah.
review it, we can review it. If you want to throw up a red flag and ask for a review, you can do that. Whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
saying we should do that with
Yeah.
with F1, but after a certain amount of time, it's done. Now we
Yeah.
have from Q1 to Q2, you have what, about a 7-minute break, probably
Yeah.
about that. If you can't go back and confidently determine that something has been violated in those 7 minutes, then you don't get to make that call again. You don't get to
No.
completely screw things up. And you're not here to play with everything. And it's just your sandbox here, and you can do whatever the hell you want. It's not Minecraft where you can just, you have free reign of everything. Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Come out 100%. Make that call. Say we did it wrong. And own up to it. But you miss it. You miss it. It's the end now. Don't start all this other shit.
Well, and like what I just think is funny is nobody was challenging it. Nobody was looking into it. So
somebody would have seen it.
Not that you'd have to, but like you didn't have to come out and say it. But I mean, especially like you said, 45 minutes later, like it's
it's useless. It's useless.
Yeah.
We're seeing some. We have issues now where they're not taking the action that they're supposed to take, or now they're overacting.
Yeah.
On other issues, let's have some consistency here.
Yeah. Well,
because you're just making yourself look like fools.
Well, and I think the problem comes with this as well is you've said, oh, we made a mistake, but that mistake actually does not even remotely help Williams.
No.
So, we switched one place. You're still at the back of the grid.
Hey, let's piss you off.
Right. Like now you're just pissing me off. You can't do anything about it. You can't help me. My driver has been doing really well and getting into Q3, and now he doesn't even have the chance to get there.
That's salt in the wound this weekend because they just gave Williams a $7,500 fine.
Yeah.
For Albon impeding because they sent him out at the wrong time or whatever.
Yeah.
It was Williams' mistake, but they just gave them a $700 fine, $7,500 fine. And now you're going to throw salt in the wound like, hey, by the way, we made this mistake. Sucks to be you. We're going to call it 45 minutes later. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
Call it in the moment. Allow Albon out.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. And if you can't, then it's done.
Yeah. It just It sucked. And then, I mean, like we said, it was pretty much the end of Q3, but and
Yeah.
you could hear Crofty and Brundle were so confused that they were almost, I mean, they were paying attention, but they were almost so distracted by this weird Hulkenberg news. But we have an awesome end to, which, I mean, again, if you don't watch any of the qualifying sessions, just watch Q3. That's just my advice. Q3 is always exciting. The last
Most weekends, yeah.
four,
This
yeah,
weekend was particularly,
yeah,
everything was everywhere. Everything was all over the
yeah,
place.
yeah. The last 4 minutes are usually very exciting in Q3. But because we have the red flag, there is a scenario where this was in Q2. I forgot to mention this. So there was a red flag in
Yes.
Q2. And when a session is red flagged, the teams go back, the drivers can get out of the car if they want. They can kind of
Cars
gauge
go
if it's going
back
to
cars
be
go back into the garage.
into the garage. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can gauge roughly how long it's going to be, depending. Like the drivers have drove by for the most part. They've seen what the accident is. They can kind of guess it'll take a few minutes. They know. If they have to use the bathroom, they can get out of their red flag. So they do get a warning. Session's going to restart in 3 minutes. Session's going to restart
Yeah,
in
they
15
give you a
minutes.
time, whether it's like 16:44 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, local
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And
Set by the FIA.
Set by the FIA. And at that point, the drivers still have to wait. But if their cars are in their garages, which they were in this scenario, they have to wait
In the garage.
until they get the actual green light. That's just hey, we're going to start this back in 10 minutes, but there will be a further green light for them to go. At that point, the two Mercedes cars come out of their garage and line up at the pit exit.
I understood it as they left their garage before there was a resume time given out by the FIA. I thought they went to go line up before they were even told what time the session was going to restart.
Oh, I thought it was the other way. I don't know.
It could be either way.
To see.
Either way, it's a
Anyways,
violation.
They went when they weren't supposed to go.
Yeah.
And I think Hulkenberg actually quickly follows them.
Everybody else went out
and
after.
He calls it on the radio. He's like, were we supposed to go? But he wanted to be the third in line. So that's running. Everybody's kind of talking about like, hey, they shouldn't have done that. And Crofty and Brundle are saying, oh, probably going to be a team fine. Nothing for the drivers, probably going to be a fine to Mercedes for each driver because they both did it.
I mean, we don't have an on-track violation technically.
No.
I mean, we have, okay, you effed up, right? And I think a team fine, 10,000 or 7,500 or whatever it's going to be. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Williams have an on-track violation and received a fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't really hear much of it. We do hear there's going to be a discussion after. They're going to look into it because, again, we probably think it's going to be a team fine. So don't worry. Let's continue as normal. Q3, continues. We have what is set as the starting grid is Piastri on pole, Russell behind and second, Leclerc, Antonelli in fourth, fifth Gasly. Amazing. 6 Norris, 7 Verstappen, 8 Sainz. This is his first time into Q3 this season, obviously in the Williams. Hamilton in 9th and Tsunoda in 10th. So, there's the grid that we're thinking is going to be. And then probably an hour after quali, something like that, we see that there's going to be actually a grid penalty for both Mercedes.
Not one, but both.
One grid place penalty. And I think that was their, we're charging the team, so it's going to impact both drivers. But, yeah.
And was this your, no, this wasn't your right. You're right.
Nope.
You're wrong. And I get there's got to be a penalty. But we don't have anything that's to give somebody that kind of a penalty on a grid start. All they did was move out of their garage to the pit entrance. It's not endangering anybody. It's not putting anything at risk. They're not giving themselves any kind of advantage. They're just going from one spot to the other and waiting.
Yeah.
It's a harsh fine. Or
I would say
penalty for just moving a few meters.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think it was a little harsh. I wasn't expecting it to be that because it was a team decision, really. It wasn't.
And so the team gets that fine. I mean,
Yeah, there's no other way to handle that. But they give them one grid place penalty, so George goes from second to third, so Charles goes into
Second.
second, and then Russell goes into third, and then Antonelli goes into fifth,
Fifth, think Gasly
um,
gets promoted up one.
into fourth. So
Yeah.
that's the starting grid, and yeah, that's really how it goes. And then we go into the race, which is a 57 lap race. And we start off at the lights go out. They do the formation lap, they come back around, lights go out. And Lando who started in sixth, is up 3 positions in the first
Yeah.
lap.
Yeah. And like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Just I think they said he just thread the needle and he just went right up the middle. Bierman, who started in 20th, was up to 14th by lap 2.
Yeah.
So just flying. And then very quickly we see Lando is noted for a false start. And then we hear the Max radio, which is so just nonchalant, but like they said, Max sees everything. You
Well, he's starting right
cannot
beside
get
him.
yeah, you can't
No,
get anything by him.
Yeah.
Kind of behind him, but
He's actually behind to the right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't miss anything, and he sees that Lando is actually sitting just ahead of his grid box. He's outside of his grid box. And they look at it. It took, Karun and Crofty, and it took them 3 seconds to see. Yeah, took FIA a little bit of time, or the stewards a little bit of time, but he gets this 5-second penalty for it, which he has to serve when he comes in for his first pit stop, really.
Yeah.
So, and then there's battles going on, but everything kind of just settles in for a little bit. And at lap 27, how does it go? We had a bunch of people on softs. No,
we had
everybody was
4. Nope, we had 3 or 4, and so it really, I mean, this one really came down to other than the fact that there was some fighting in the first 2 laps before. Yeah. I mean, we had Russell fighting with Piastri. Norris came out of nowhere. Yeah. Charles dropped 3 places right away because of just the great starts for everybody else. But it came down to, I mean, this tarmac is old. This tarmac chews up your tires. It's older than Antonelli and Bierman, who were both born in 2005. This track was laid in 2003. Yeah. I mean, your tires don't last.
Yeah.
So we had 3 people, I believe it was, like I said, on softs. They came in around 10, 11.
Yeah, 10, really?
Yeah. I mean, actually, no, I have here Hulkenberg at 5, Hadjar at 6, Ocon at 8, Duhan at 9. And then the mediums started getting changed because most of everybody was on mediums around 12, 13 to 15, 16 for the rest of them. Yeah. But most people were on mediums and hards. And the mediums seem to be running pretty good. I think we were maybe only 2 cars on the hard.
Yeah. And then lap 27, I think, is where stuff really starts to... I mean, this wasn't a great start for Max, or a great... he started in 7th. I think he had dropped to 8th for a while there. And then... lap 27 is where shit just hits the fan for Max Verstappen. He had an awful pit stop.
He had 2 bad pit stops. So yeah. I would even his first one, and they had problems. This was a Red Bull problem, not a Max problem.
Yeah.
He comes in, and and if anybody watches their pit stops, they have a light that comes up in the front, right? And every pit stop has it, where it's a red light or a flashing amber light, and then as soon as they're ready to go, the team puts it on because it's, is there a car coming by? Are they going to impede anybody, or they're ready to go? It'll turn green and they're good to go. It was not working at Red Bull today.
Nope.
And so Max is waiting and he's trying to go, and then he just said, fuck it. And he's like, this
just goes.
And he goes because the light's broken. It happens with Yuki too.
Yeah, it happened with Yuki. And that's when we realized it was an actual...
light issue.
Because and I mean, that light is there for safety, like you said, make sure nobody else is coming, make sure they don't run over the guy with the front jack, make sure all hands are off the car,
so you don't move until
drive away.
So his regular pit stop, his I mean, which would be a 2.3 2.7 second pit stop, I think that first one was a 4.1 or something. So an extra 2 seconds, not great.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point we start to hear everybody at every stage, wherever they are on the track, no tires are working for whether it's the softs, the mediums, the hard. Everybody's complaining about their tires. The only person that's not is Piastri. Everybody's strategy is out the window. No,
He's in
nothing's
clean
working
air.
for
Yeah.
anybody
We
except
don't
for
hear it. I don't.
Piastri.
Did we even hear? We heard one radio from Piastri, which was actually pretty
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
But we otherwise we don't hear anything from Piastri. And
yeah,
all team radios are, but most of team radios are about the tires,
yeah,
unless you're George Russell.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah. So, I mean, there was just kind of a lot going on. And then we have a coming together of, was it Yuki and Signs?
Yuki and no, Yuki was
Yuki.
with. Was it the Williams? Maybe it was. Yes, it was. Yeah,
Yeah. So we have Yuki and Signs come together. Yeah, because Signs was running pretty high. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And they don't, they touch quite a bit, but they're still driving, but you're just seeing debris flying
Debris. Yeah,
everywhere. And the debris, half of it fell off the track and then more kept falling off. So some
as
fell
yeah.
on the track. And it was kind of, it's a safety hazard at that point. And FIA decided to deploy a full safety car,
Well,
which
yeah, and
worked out perfectly for the top 5. Worked out perfectly just of where it happened.
even behind. I mean, it bunched up everybody, and they never
Yeah.
really unbunched for the rest of the race.
No, no.
I mean, we didn't have one lapped car.
No.
We did not.
No,
I
we
know
didn't.
that for a fact. I
Yeah.
checked that. I was surprised.
Yeah, no, they all kind of stayed together. But that, I actually skipped over this, but Max's first pit stop, that was bad. He actually comes out in 20th.
Yeah, it
Which,
dropped him.
like, starting in 7th, I think he was in 8th at that point, and then coming out in 20th because of this awful pit stop, which is out of everybody's control, system failure. Struggle, but he kind of gets out of there pretty quickly. So
the first one was out of his control. It was system failure. The second one was not his fault. It was again the team's fault, but it was a terrible wheel gun issue.
Yeah,
which just wasn't working for him.
Just not working. Lewis gets Lando, but then Lando goes off track and then gains the position, and McLaren tells Lando to give the spot back.
Yeah.
Lando says yes and does it. Actually, I don't think he even responded. He just did it. He just
he knew he was just, he overtook over the white lines.
Yeah. And then we start to get to the back end of the race now, and we start to hear Russell's radio quite a bit, and his, I can't remember his
DRS.
I can't remember his name.
Oh.
He comes on and says, we're losing your transponder. And I messaged you and I was like, why is Russell out? He's in 20th. What's going on? Like, he's out of the race. And his transponder stopped working. So it couldn't tell where his GPS transponder couldn't tell where he was on track.
And you see it on the graphic. Yeah. Like, it was during the first time I noticed it, maybe I have it earlier, was the safety car. Because he's right behind Piastri, and he's bunched up right behind Piastri, and all of a sudden he's just dropping. And then all of a sudden he's back up. I'm like, he's going to get a penalty because he's letting all these people pass him. Like, I couldn't see him on track. They were looking at the back of the track, and I just keep, and I'm like, okay, it's a graphics issue. I didn't really realize I had background noise. I didn't hear the transponder part. But yeah. And it was nuts.
It wasn't working. And so he's, struggling there. And then they eventually come on and they say, you're about to lose your dash. So they're like, keep driving. Everything looks good, but you're going to lose the visuals on your dash. Pardon?
This is a major electronics failure.
Yeah.
Like, this is you have to see what gear you're in. You have to see, if you're harvesting your battery, if you got DRS. All these things. Every little bit of data is on this dash.
Yeah. So in the midst of all of this, it's like, okay, well, that's going on. We see Carlos Sainz from a bit of damage and coming together with a few different people is a massive hole in the side
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the Williams. He also got a 10-second penalty for one of the comings together because it was his fault. He drove
Yeah, he
into
drove into him, yeah. Yeah.
somebody. And so he gets a 10-second penalty and he pits to retire the car on lap 47. So we've got 10 laps to go. I don't know if you have it there. Did he serve the 10-second penalty? I didn't see him serve it.
I don't think so. I think they just pulled him right in. I was watching. It just says DNF on
Yeah,
45. It doesn't tell me if he's served it. I don't think he did because they didn't hold him there because he would have
no,
had to go out for one more lap. He
right.
would have had to stop, go out for another lap, then come back in. I think they just retired the car, which means he's going to be penalized in the next
In
race.
the next race, yeah, he's
Yeah.
gonna have. So we'll see him fighting for position because he's gonna have a
Yeah.
10-second penalty to fight. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, we've got 10 laps left, and then we hear there's some sort of DRS infringement. At this point, Russell is running in second. He's nowhere, I wouldn't say nowhere.
Well,
He's
and
not close enough to Piastri.
when
We know
we
that.
hear that there's the issue with the DRS when there's the dash issue. So he has to, again, because his transponder's gone, like this DRS opens automatically because it's got your track position. It knows when you're supposed to turn on and off. For most tracks, this one is one of them.
Yeah.
He has to do it manually.
Yeah.
Which, whatever, he can do that late and early and to close it again, but it's up to him.
Yeah. I mean, we also,
If he's
if he's paying attention. So we hear that there's this DRS infringement, but again, looking at the graphics, which we know are not necessarily right, but we're looking at the leader and the commentators are telling us, okay, the graphics might not be right, but they're giving us the actual timings, and it's like, no,
he's 10 seconds behind.
But Piastri's 6 seconds, 10 seconds behind. Like, he's not close. And so it's like, what is this DRS infringement from? Is it from something earlier on? Is it what happened? Whatever.
Something that happened 45 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yesterday happened in qualifying. And then we find out that he opened the DRS by accident.
We don't find out why yet.
We don't know why, but it opened by accident.
For like 38 meters of a 700 meter straight. So like a fraction of a second.
Yeah. Then we also you don't realize how much the transponder actually, how important it really is, because you hear Lando, who's now running in third behind Russell, fully aware that there's nothing working in Russell's car. We hear Lando's radio of Will Joseph saying, you're right there, but you can only use DRS if you're 100% sure you're within DRS, which means Lando now has to pay attention to how close he is to the car. And it's because they're not getting registered for where Russell is on track. Yeah. So Lando also has to use
because he's basically
manual DRS.
That little blip on the track is no longer there.
It's not working for him.
You have to judge whatever math they do to see those markers that are 100, 300 or whatever from corners. And can I accurately judge what 1 second is? Yeah.
And make it stick, really, and make it work. To be honest, I don't actually see Lando use his DRS until kind of like right towards the end there.
There was a few, probably like the last 5 laps he was using it, but still not really to any great effect.
Wasn't doing much. And then we don't hear really what's going on, but we do hear that whatever Russell's DRS issue is, or the infringement, it's going to be it'll be looked at after the session, after the race is done. So we kind of go to the end. Lando has a couple opportunities to overtake. He kind of does a bit of a Lando and gets there and then has to come off late braking, or he locks up or what have you, but he doesn't end up getting Russell, and Russell keeps P2. So the race finishes. We've got Piastri in first, Russell second, Lando third.
Yep.
Charles fourth, I think.
Charles fourth, yeah.
Yeah.
Then Hamilton, the two Ferraris, fourth and fifth. And then Max, Gasly, Ocon, Tsunoda,
Yeah.
and Behrman getting another point.
Behrman getting a
Kind
point
of
for
out
the
of
guy that
nowhere. Yep.
started in 20th. A bizarre driver of the day, Lewis Hamilton.
Why? He wasn't. I didn't even notice he was driver of the day.
Yeah. And Crofty was like, oh,
For what?
those are interesting choices. And he's
Yeah,
like,
like
I'll just leave that there.
I mean,
Why?
Hamilton did nothing but
He started in
not
ninth,
not
got to
want to
fifth.
drive. Yeah, and he didn't really feel like driving. He kind of just drove. He complained.
I mean, I know usually the winner rarely gets driver of the day. Unless it's like a shocking winner. like
And that's
um
fine.
yeah,
You know
that's
what?
I'm totally fine with the winner not getting driver of the day. However, Piastri drove a phenomenal drive. I think this was one of his better drives. I mean, yeah, he didn't have to fight anybody, but I think he had a good drive. I would be
Well,
happy if even he got it.
we
But
talk about it all the time when Max was winning everything. Like he just drove perfect. Piastri
yeah,
drove everything perfect this
he
this
did
weekend. It
perfect.
was
He got lucky with where he was with the pit stops. He got
didn't put a
like
foot wrong. Like it was great.
yeah.
But I mean,
Um
you also have Gasly in the Alpine who finished. I mean, he dropped back, but he was seventh. You had Behrman, like you said,
Bierman
who came from 20th to 10th.
as
Right?
a
You have
rookie.
George Russell, who where everybody relies on all these electronics, was still able to keep Lando. I mean, I guess maybe driver of the day voting might have been closed by that point, but he was able to keep Norris behind and
Yeah.
hold on to that second place at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
I, there were so many other options
So many other options.
for
So
somebody who was not deserving of a driver of the day, in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I didn't pay attention to the graphic of who was, on the list when you can see like the voting where it is currently.
Yeah,
But I didn't see it, but when it popped up, I was like, "Oh, okay. Interesting."
sure.
Anyways, insane fireworks display. Russell or Piastri wins. Cool. Everybody goes on with their day.
Oh, they're all getting undressed in the cool down
Yeah,
room.
bizarre.
It's odd.
Very bizarre. I was like, is this a penalty? Like, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not complaining, but like,
are
is this
nipples in the regulations?
yeah, like, is this a penalty? So then we're all waiting to hear what happens with Russell, because I mean, if this is an infringement, a DRS infringement, your DRS opened when it's not supposed to open. You say it's by accident. And George actually talks about it in his post-race interview. He says, "Oh, I pressed my radio button and the DRS opened, but I quickly closed it." So he admits to it right away. I was like, ooh, probably not the PR thing you want to talk about right now, but whatever. And takes a while, and then we finally get the result that no penalty for George. And I mean, Crofty and Brundle were saying they were thinking it was going to be a 5-second penalty, which would actually put him into, I think, third or fourth. Yeah,
fourth. Yeah.
yeah.
So let's before I know you're going to get into your rant. So let's just
Okay.
explain to everybody. So I guess because of the electronics issue, he couldn't press the regular little WhatsApp button that he's got there on his thing because they're a sponsor and his radio message is a WhatsApp button. His backup radio button also opens the DRS. The Germans have always been some of the greatest engineers, at least since the World Wars. We'll give them that. Why would you make, if you have a problem with your radio, make your backup radio button the same button as your DRS?
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
No,
It
not
doesn't
at
make
all.
any sense. Can you not have a function on your little dial thing or whatever where it could be for radio, or like, can you not differentiate between them? How is this such a bungle? Do you just think it's never going to happen until it does?
Yeah.
It's just a stupid. I'll let you get in your rant, but
Yeah.
this is just like the biggest, like one of the biggest bungles I've ever heard. That makes absolutely. It's just stupid. It's
Yeah.
absolute stupidity.
I don't understand why. I mean, yes, I know we have to have an override, and
Yeah.
all the grace to George having to, probably never had to drive like this before. If it was my dad and my uncles talking, they'd say these are not drivers, or they just use machines, blah 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 blah. But
Today, George was a driver.
so George had to drive, not knowing driving blind, essentially, like having to figure out how to do everything and figure out how to drive the car. Now, this is where I get pissed off.
There we go.
Because and I knew, I was like, Toto's going to bring all the evidence. He's going to say it was an accident. It was this. We had all these technical issues. He wasn't even within DRS range. To me, that's besides the point. Regardless of the accident, regardless of the button it's set up to do this and it's set up to do that, at the end of the day, it opened. If he was in DRS range, it opened. It would start to work. Just because he's not out in DRS range with somebody, why are we not penalizing him? Yep. He should be penalized. If we're going to penalize people for less than a pound being underweight,
no,
if
kilogram.
We're gonna
less than a kilogram.
Less
That's
than
a
kilogram.
Pounds.
Okay. If we're gonna penalize people for 0.5 or 6 of plank wear, 0.6 millimeters.
It was a credit card thickness.
Like, are we?
Is this a defense of Ferrari here?
Well, this is also for Hulk, because I looked at Hulk stuff today too. But like, are we really going to, if we're going to penalize one for something that did happen, it was an accident, understand, but the accident happened. And yes, nobody was around, but what if somebody was around? Were we going to just be like, oh, just kidding?
Well, you want to talk about an accident, the same thing. The same thing happened to the Mercedes before. They accidentally sent them out before they were supposed to send them out, whatever it was. They still gave him a grid place penalty.
Right. Like, I just don't know why. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, the whole thing is he was in a portion where he did not gain an advantage when it opened. So he did not gain at that moment any kind of track position or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, you watched it just as much as I did. We saw how close Norris was on his ass at that point. If you're telling me that 0.3 seconds of an advantage does not maybe play a part in Norris catching him later on, I mean, you can't determine that. It may be not at that time, but he does gain a small amount of an advantage at a point.
And it was a second. It was a second in time, but there was something that happened. We're not allowed to do X, and X happened.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have to follow. It's happened with other things.
If you're going to follow your rules so much to the letter, that 45 minutes you give somebody a penalty later on, then you give somebody a penalty for an infringement.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you believe it gave them an advantage or not. An infringement is an infringement.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about infringement, like Lando Norris today, his car he didn't drive over the line on purpose. When he got to his grid place box, his car rolled forward. That was an accident. But he got a penalty.
No.
Like, it's what happens. And I mean, I don't want to necessarily take it away from George, but like,
consistency is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter who it is. Yeah. We just have to be consistent with what we're doing. And you know, if we're going to be so minute on penalties, all the minute penalties have to be treated the same way.
Yeah.
And done. And
over.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Was this a TED Talk?
How
to Karen.
I would like to speak to a manager about this decision immediately. But
take me to your president.
God. Yeah. So he keeps his position.
He keeps the second place.
His trophy.
Which makes the Drivers' Championship going into Saudi Arabia and then possibly Imola 2 weeks after that ever more interesting, because I'm just looking at this. I'm just looking at the standings now.
Yeah.
Those the top four are pretty bunched up. And then we have a big drop off to the Ferrari. But I mean, we got Lando with 77 after today, Oscar at 74. We have Max at 69. And then George Russell at I couldn't not do it. And then George Russell at 63.
Yeah.
Whereas if he was in fourth, he would have been under the 60s, probably at like a 55, just guessing off 52, 55, something like that. It's a really close race
Yeah.
for three races in, 4 races in. How many
Yeah,
races in?
it's pretty close. And I mean, I think they were saying how did it go? If Lando didn't get a podium, then
No, Piastri
Piastri
would have been ahead.
would be ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And Max and Lando would obviously still be pretty close. But yeah, I mean, it's turning into a very interesting season. We have in the top 10 for the driver standings, I mean, we have a Williams, a Haas, we have a rookie, Antonelli, who's in 6th.
yeah.
I mean, we're not talking a rookie in 10th. We are talking a rookie that is being consistent.
Yep.
And he's in 6th, and he is ahead of the likes of Hamilton, Albon, Ocon, and Stroll. Not by much for Hamilton. He's only 5 points ahead of Hamilton, but still.
Well, you think like Lance Stroll's in 10th at
Yeah.
10 points.
Yeah.
11, 12, and 13 are all tied at 6 points, and that's Haas, Lee, and Nico Hulkenberg, where Sauber couldn't even get a point last year. He's
Yeah.
got 6 points. I
Yeah.
mean, this is all over the place.
Yeah.
I think
And
we also have more people in this that have 0 than we have had at this point last year, and
yeah.
Fernando Alonso is one of them, which
Yeah.
is strange. But
Yeah.
it's like the top, the midfield, and the bottom are all over the place here.
Yeah. I think this is going to be battles, and this is going to go up and down and roller coaster the
Yeah,
entire season. I think this is going to be one that everything is just going to be very close and everybody just jockeying positions back and
yeah,
forth throughout. It's going to be a complete mess. You mentioned Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg after the race was also disqualified from the race due to a plank issue.
yeah. It's very aggressive, apparently.
Yeah. He was it's supposed to be 9 millimeters all the way across front, middle, and rear of the car.
Yeah,
The front and rear were down to 8.4 millimeters, and the middle was 8.5. I won't go into my rant again.
no, we don't.
But,
We don't know. Please listen.
but yeah,
I don't even
mean,
know where he finished the race because right here it
uh,
just says
yeah,
DQ,
yeah,
Dairy Queen. But yeah, it doesn't matter. He's
yeah,
disqualified. Still
he's
keeps the 6
disqualified.
points.
Yeah,
But it does put him in that tie with Behrman and Gasly, who
yeah,
had a great showing this weekend
yeah.
for his 6 points.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was the race. A lot more exciting than last weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't mind this excitement. A bit of a safety car and nobody's actually injured. You know, strategy drama, tires not working. I'm here for it. If this is what all
Yeah.
the races are going to look like, perfect.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc talking about how he wanted to go to the hards. He didn't want to go to the mediums.
Yeah.
Why are you going to put me on the same strategy? Because it was going to be a two-star. He wanted to go to the end on a hard.
Yeah.
Very upset. And then he got to put on his hards, and he said, "This tire is shit."
Yeah.
I kind of just wanted to see his pit wall, just like, no fucking,
Yeah.
just yelling at the wall silently. Yeah, just giving the birds to the wall and not letting him see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a reason, buddy. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a race that we can say,
it was,
and everywhere.
Australia was good. This is probably behind Australia. This is the first really good race we've had.
Yeah, real racing everywhere, and drama, and I think when you start to see people have to really use strategy, and nobody's strategy is working, that I think is really good racing.
Well, because they scramble after, and it's just like,
then
what's going to work, what's not going to work.
Yeah. You take this tire, you take this tire, and just figure it out. But yeah, do we have any news?
Not much that I want to go into because there's just a bunch of speculation and bullshit.
Yeah.
It was just the whole thing. We actually had Helmut Marko kind of putting his tail between his legs. He was asked and Max is just showing his displeasure, talking about he doesn't even think he's just a passenger basically in this championship. He's resigned to the fact that he has no chance at winning the race, regardless if he's in third and not far behind the rest of the pack there. But Helmut Marko even saying that, yeah, it's a worry that Max might not be around, or might, he's just displeased with how
Yeah.
things are going. And it was seen after the race that
Yeah.
Max's manager, agent manager, whatever he is, was having a very heated discussion with Helmut Marko after the race, like angrily yelling at him.
Yeah.
Um, just talking about, I'm assuming it's going to be about why you're not giving him the car that he deserves,
Right.
along those lines.
Yeah.
And then subsequently after that, Horner, Marco, and a couple of the other engineers or top people in the team having a very heated discussion. Things are not going well at Red Bull. For as fast as they rose after Mercedes, they are collapsing in just the same amount of time, like just so quickly. It's scary, and
Yeah.
they need a turnaround. They need something to look forward to.
Yeah. And it's opening up the grid for the whatever field of their own at this point. It's opening up for the Mercedes and the Ferraris to take over. And I mean, the both of those teams are consistently putting up points, both drivers. And I think this was something that, we Red Bull struggled with last year, is only having one driver putting up points. And now we're having that one driver still putting up points, but not the points
Not the points that he needs
that he needs.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he can carry a team if he's winning.
I mean,
Um,
but they got a
but you can only
collective
go
of
so
10
far.
points this weekend.
Yeah.
Not where you need to be.
Not so good.
Not even close.
Yeah. And I
But
think
that's it for news.
the
Oh,
other bit of news, FIA news, um, the FIA's deputy president,
oh yes.
Robert Reed, has resigned. So he is basically the second in command to Ben. Ben, we talk about Ben quite a bit. Who's the FIA president? He has resigned, and his reasonings for resigning are kind of a bit to my rant. He said that he can no longer, in good faith, serve in a system that does not reflect his principles. And there was more to it as well. And he said, I'm just not being able to following the rules, essentially. Like,
Yeah, and just showing. I think it's more so showing like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Showing a level of unbiasedness, collaboration, cooperativeness across all. Because he says at the end, he says motorsport deserves leadership rooted in integrity, accountability, and respect for the process.
yeah,
It seems like he's basically calling Ben a dictator and doing whatever
yeah,
he wants, and not having any kind of respect for process and the good of the sport.
yeah. Yeah, just he's not happy with the way things are being run. And
Yeah.
I think that's very reflective of what we're seeing.
It's telling to leave a job with such prestige because your principles don't align. Like that is
Yeah,
it's not because you're unhappy with an organization that you've been slighted somehow, just
yeah,
because your principles don't align. It has to be egregious to make that kind of a decision.
yeah. And that statement.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically call him out after.
Yeah.
He'll never work there again until he's gone.
Yeah. And I think this is really this really goes into what has been going on, is everybody's frustrated, and there's a vote this year about the FIA president. I mean, maybe Robert Reed will be back running against, but yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, we do have another bit of news about Carlos Sainz and fines.
Yeah.
Because he should have been fined for comments that he made.
He might still be.
We might still be fined.
It's been what, 4 days now?
Yeah,
4 days on Thursday,
Yeah. Yeah.
For swearing in a press conference to just make a joke because over his other, taking a
Shitty.
trip to the loo,
Yeah.
during for a stomach bug or whatever, and he said, shit happens.
Yeah.
Just
And
to be
he did say, I might
punny
get a
and fun.
penalty. I might
Yeah,
get in
yeah,
trouble for this, but
yeah.
shit happens. And this is another area. Though they said that they weren't going to give them penalties or fines for swearing in the car. But in a press interview, they weren't allowed to swear in the pens. They weren't allowed to swear any sort of controlled environment.
Official,
I think is what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, FIA or F1 media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
governed event, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he did. And I'm not saying he needs to get a penalty, but there's just this lack of consistency again. And
Well, it's the thing. Apparently, I think the only person we've actually seen fined for a swearing infraction during a press conference has been Max.
yeah,
This rule came across because of Max's conduct to his engineer last year. He was fined in a press conference. We saw Charles Leclerc say it. Did he didn't get a penalty?
no, no,
Nobody else has been fined. I mean,
no,
don't pick on one person. You're gonna make the
yeah,
rule, make it for everybody.
yeah,
And it's not me as a defensive Max. Just
no,
find the consistency, find your integrity, find your
yeah,
accountability to the rules that you set.
yeah.
This is
It's,
not a dictatorship in how you just want to, you know, pick on issues here and there.
yeah, it doesn't work like that. And it shouldn't work like that with anything.
With
So,
anybody.
yeah. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Carlos gets a penalty. And I kind of wish in a season like this, I mean, I kind of wished for last season, but this season where we're kind of going to see this roller coaster and the jockeying of positions, we used to be able to see in the drivers' meetings. It
Yeah.
would be very interesting to see in the drivers' meetings and then them, talking back to some of these rule changes and their feelings on all of these things. And, we've seen where I think it was Vettel kind of talked about, oh, well, are we supposed to take off our seatbelts or whatever? And well, Lewis does all the time kind of thing. Like throwing each other under the bus to prove a point. And they all know it's to prove a point. But we want to see, okay, well, Max swore. Well, George swore. Why are we
Yeah.
not calling these people out? So it would be interesting to see the drivers' meetings this year. Or, yeah, at all anymore. But I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Is that it?
All right.
Is
I
that
think
all?
this is a ranty one.
Yeah.
For as happy as we were this weekend, it's a lot of rant.
I know.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's it for me. Fresh set.
Fresh set. I think I kind of have two, which is kind of weird considering my rant. But my first one is a night race. Love a night race. I don't know if you
Yeah.
caught it during quali, just how good the Red Bull looked under the lights. I don't know if the blue that they used this year, but it looked really,
Well, remember I
really
told
good.
you that depending on if it's a night race or a day race, they change the
Oh,
hue
that's
of the color
right.
just slightly, so it's all very consistent, or it
That's
looks
right.
optimal, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it might look better under the night
Yeah,
light.
it looked so good. I was like, oh, I really just noticed it during that. And then my second one is, oddly enough, George Russell. I wrote these down earlier. Oddly enough, George Russell. We're 4 races in, and he is just kind of, I mean, not so silently today, but silently just racking up points. Today he had to do some work, but he hasn't really had to do much, and he is just racking up some points.
I'm with you on that George one. I mean, today was we've talked about it every weekend how he's just silently doing nothing and getting points.
Yeah.
And this weekend he worked for it and he deserved them. And I mean, he maybe should have gotten a penalty, but either way, he still worked his ass off to get to where he was, and so deservedly so.
Yeah.
My
first. I was like,
no, it's not. No, I don't like to pick the same ones you do. I gotta be different. I know. I think I did it a couple weeks ago, but I'm again just going to pick on. I'm gonna pick on the rookies. It's just been impressive to see. Again, they had a great race. There was a lot of, and I thought it was gonna be a lot more crashes coming together. And it's not the rookies doing it. They're battling. They're battling. They're jockeying for position. They're taking corners. They're not showing that fear. They're fighting. Antonelli was on it this weekend. I know he finished in 11th. That was kind of, I think it had a lot to do with his pit stops and that strategy. But as soon as he's coming out of the pit stops, he's fighting and he's taking over positions. They've just all been very impressive this weekend.
Yeah.
Or this year, but this weekend especially.
Yeah, Doohan had a good race as well.
He did. Yeah.
He had some overtakes and stuff. So yeah, I think we all thought with 6 rookies on the track this year,
chaos.
It was going to be a complete disaster.
They've been. I thought that every turn one was just going to be a disaster, but
yeah. They've been really good. Dirty air, my dirty air this weekend is it's gonna be technology.
Okay.
It was a fail in all kinds of aspects for the teams. We've talked about George Russell and his dashboard not working, his DRS issues. We learned late that Charles also had DRS issues. Don't know if his wasn't opening or what was going on, but he had DRS issues. The lights at Red Bull weren't working. Russell's transponder wasn't working. I don't know if you caught this. I know you had kids running around while you were watching, but there was one point where on screen it said replay, but it wasn't
Mhm.
a replay. It was live. And they
Oh,
were
really?
talking, yeah, they were saying, just so you know, what you're watching right now is not a replay.
Oh, see, I couldn't hear it. I just
Yeah.
assumed it was the replay. Okay.
No, wasn't a replay. It was live racing. So it was just like a tech fail this weekend
Yeah.
in Bahrain for F1. And like a lot of it was out of the control of the drivers or the teams.
But affected them
Sky Sports.
nonetheless. Yeah.
Like, but it affected a lot of people, and it just really goes to show you that tech is good,
Technology's all over. Yeah.
but it can
But
be
when we
really
rely
bad.
too much on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I at one point wasn't working. You
Yeah.
could see that like Russell was right behind Piastri, but it said he was 11 seconds behind. Like
Yeah.
just nothing was working.
No. It's the beginning of Skynet. Terminators are coming. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Lewis Hamilton. My dirty air. Not deserving of driver date. Not that that's his fault. It's
Yeah.
whatever
The people.
stupid voters that were there. And I will call them stupid because he didn't deserve it this weekend.
No.
He just seems checked out again. He just seems
Yeah.
defeated. He was so excited to get into the Ferrari, and then it's just, he gets into an interview and he says, "Don't expect anything from me. Don't expect much. I'm not going to win." And it's more of the same that we've seen in Lewis over the last few years, and it's just like, you know what? If you're not going to be, and I don't expect you to be a legend until your last race, but act like a racer.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's 4 races in. We're 4 races in, and he's given up.
Yeah.
Even if you're displeased with the team and it's a car issue or whatever, fine. It can be that, but give it everything. Don't give up. You still have the rest of the season to do. Have faith in your team. At
the end of the day,
so disappointing.
You're still in a Ferrari. At the end of the day, I mean, you see every week so far, Carlos Sainz has had to put out a post saying, "Tough weekend, hard weekend. We'll be back. We're figuring it out. We're gonna work on it." And it's like, this guy's ending DNS. Did not start. Oh no, he did start. No, he didn't start in Australia. Whatever it was, and he has a DNF today. Like,
I think it was a DNS and a DNF. Or was it 2 DNFs? Either way. Whatever.
And
he's only finished 2 races, yeah.
If you feel like that in your head, just why are you saying it out loud? Don't expect, like, you have an entire nation or nations of people, millions of people.
They drew you as Jesus on the side of buildings. Like,
yeah, they have ripped up their Mercedes jerseys, all bought Ferrari jerseys. And you're going to say, don't expect anything from me. Come on.
It was just like,
Come on. Not good.
It's 4 races in, and I'm just sick of Lewis already. Like, he needs to have some kind of a change, and it's not in his own mindset.
Yeah.
Why did you bring Angela back if she's not going to fix your mindset? Because it seems like your mindset went out the window when she left. Yeah. So fix something.
I mean, we saw Lando in his post-quali very dejected, very frustrated with his quali. But then he came back, and then he came back today and was perfecly fine. Like in pre-race, pre-race interviews, he's fine. Like,
but that's another issue I have with Lando. I mean, he is very hard on himself, which I can understand. Yeah. But there's sometimes points where you got to just turn it around and refocus yourself and move on to the next thing, and not just play the sad puppy dog bullshit in interviews. Move on. Find a solution.
Yeah, and I mean, at least his, though, is after a disappointing finish. Lewis is before the weekend even started.
Yeah.
Why are you being so negative already?
Welcome to Bahrain. No, thank you. I'll leave now.
No, don't expect much. See you in Saudi Arabia. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways. And that's it. That's our. Did
That's
you
it.
do your dirty year? Yeah, that was your dirty
That
year.
was Lewis. Yeah, it
Hello.
was Lewis. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Anyways, so we will be back next week with a. Oh,
But
sorry.
hold on, hold on. Just thinking about because it was on the topic of Lewis. Did you see how many people were like when he had his hat on for the pressers and everything, like wondering about his hair? There's a very
Yeah.
big concern about his hair, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and like, oh, and then he had it off, and it was just, he just didn't have the
The
cornrows in,
braids.
or the
Yeah.
yeah, and so he was just he took it off, and like, oh, he's still got like you could see the hair coming
Yeah.
out of his hat. What are you worried about?
Yeah. They were
Like,
worried
what
that
are
he
we
shaved.
doing?
Yeah.
Who
We're
gives a
worried about
shit about his hair?
the wrong things.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
Lewis still has his hair. Thank
Yeah.
God. What the fuck?
Yeah, I did see that.
Priorities, people.
Yeah,
But
honestly.
anyways, okay, we'll
Yeah,
go on now. We'll move on. Yeah.
funny. So we will be back next week with another race. This is the third race in the triple header, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia,
And yes, we'll have another race review after that.
yeah.
And yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see you guys then.
Yeah. Grab a fresh set.
Bye.